Good afternoon, people. What's up? Hope everybody's well. Welcome to the James Betterton Show. Yes, I'm calling it the James Betterton Show because I'm a narcissist, and that's what narcissists do. They pump each other up, um, and they pump themselves up, I should say. And I'm excited because my first guest is a very good friend of mine, Mr. Brian Austin Green. He'll be joining us shortly. And yeah, we're going to get into it. We're going to talk. And I hope you guys enjoy. I put on a nice fresh white t-shirt. That's why it's a little wrinkly. But if it bothers you, you can probably just go fuck yourself. Excuse the reflection of light on Mr. Vito Corleone in the background. I will figure that out as we go. It's a little touch and go, you know what I mean? But yeah, I'm very excited to have a show where I could talk, talk with people that I really like, that I'm a fan of. I will be having some comic friends of mine. I will be having a wide variety of people, and we're going to have some fun. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you guys hit that link and join and ask some questions. Again, this is the James Betterton Show, live from Lake Balboa, California. Lake Balboa is basically Van Nuys. It's a nice little pocket area. You could walk to the store and everything could be okay, or you can walk to the store and potentially get stabbed by an MS-13 member. But, that's nor here nor there. What's throwing me off right now is the mirroring image of this video. See, I want to turn my head this way and it turns that way. But I do that so you guys can see what I'm seeing, and I can hold up things, and you guys could read the text on things. So yeah, I mean, I hope you guys all had a good day. My day was pretty good. I came home to a quiet house because I told my wife and kids that they need to be out of here because I can't have any noise. I just want to be in my own zone. I'm sure you guys all understand that. It's important to be in your own zone when, I'm just kidding. I was going to go off on a Tony Robbins pep talk here. But yeah, I'm just riffing until our guest gets here. He's probably setting up his Zoom mic, or, perhaps rolling out of bed from a session with a beautiful lady. Aside from being a great actor, he is a true cocksman. If you look at his resume, yeah, he's done it all, so I'm excited. I keep saying that. Yeah, so we're going to do it. We're going to do it. I'm going to go take a piss, and I'll be right back. Well, I'm back, ladies and gentlemen. That was a elongated bathroom break, but I also was taking care of something. I texted the information, and apparently the text was giving our guest a little issue. So it's going to be a minute, and we'll be back. You know, I wish I had some music to play, but I don't know what clearance I can get. By the way, all this is live, so I'm not editing anything out. So yeah, so that's why you're getting it all in its glory. I'm giving you all the information, and here is the man himself. There he is.
Yo,
What up, buddy?
what's going on, man?
Oh, you know, wheeling
Is
and
the
dealing.
video and everything's working?
Everything's working, man. You look freaking great.
Thanks, brother. So do you. How are you, man? You good?
I'm doing good, man. How
Dude,
about
nice
you?
Lakers hat, man. I appreciate that.
You know, I had to represent for Van Nuys greatest. And as you know, I'm in Lake Balboa, which is glorified. It's the Beverly Hills of Van
Yes. Yeah, of Van Nuys. Yeah. It's gorgeous.
Nuys. Yes. Oh, so glorious.
Yeah. The falls there, wildly beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, the background, I love it. Is that a virtual background or is that your real background?
It's all moving with I'm high-end CG over here. I'm like the Mandalorian.
Yeah, if it was CG,
Look at this.
if it was CG, your head would be breathing.
Right, exactly.
So
It's no, this is my bedroom. Oh, dude, you haven't been to this house.
No, I haven't. The last house I've been to was
You saw Los Feliz.
Yes.
You saw it with no furniture in it. You said it looked like the Death Star.
Dude, that kitchen had, for some reason, it had a 360-degree view. I don't even think it was a 360.
Right? Yeah. That wasn't the kitchen, but that's your memory is fooling you. But that's a nice one.
I was high.
Right.
And I do remember you had the secret doorway to, I believe it was Cash's room.
Yeah, behind the bookcase.
Oh, that's so awesome. I always
Yeah. You know what? That was a cool idea in theory until you were in the house and it was like, wait, so for Cash to get in his room, he has to walk through the guest bedroom. So it was limiting for him. It seemed like a really good idea. It seemed very Bat Cave-ish, like, oh, this is cool. And then you were in it and you were like, yeah, this kind of sucks.
Yeah, it's an easy sell for a child or a kid.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, he was super excited. He was like, oh, man, my door is a bookcase. It's hidden. It's like, yeah, that's really cool. And then it was like, now you have to use it as a door. Like, this is your room. He's like, oh, this sucks.
fast forward to when he's 15 and he's like, whatever, guys, I'm going to the room.
And he's going through the guest bedroom, which somebody's in.
Yeah.
They're in the shower. Like, you have to knock on the door.
Hemingway books to get into his room.
Right. Yeah, it was sort of like the Addams Family house. Like, you had to pull on the fucking greed book and then the bookcase opened. Yeah.
That's great. So what's going on, man? How are the boys? Kids are good? Everybody's good?
The kids are good, man. I mean, fuck, the pandemic sucks. This whole like staying at home thing and, finding restaurants that have outdoor patios you can sit on and all that. It's not easy, man. It's not easy. Are you doing the virtual learning?
Oh God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I just got my ass chewed out the other day by Lonnie because we take pictures of the kids doing their thing and we upload it to Class Dojo.
Yeah. We're using that also.
Yeah. And I took a picture of them. It was like, bake a good treat for your kids. So I got Rome sitting there with the egg beater, whipping up some stuff, and there's a fucking big
whipping up breakfast for you.
There's a big handle of Captain Morgan in the picture. And Lonnie.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Lonnie was just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I was like, yeah, that's my bad. Well, whatever. They drink.
Right. Well, we can airbrush that out.
Yeah,
We'll Photoshop that out. Come on.
Yeah. So, I
Picture will
mean,
look glorious.
you're right. I mean, it truly does suck. I mean, me personally, if I was a single man with no kids, I was built for this pandemic quarantine stuff.
Hmm.
Because I don't like to go anywhere. I just like to watch things.
Yeah.
Even on vacation, when Lonnie and I would go into a hotel, I'd be like, "Oh my God, you could get movies in the theater here,"
Right.
you know. And
I love Mario Lopez now.
yeah, he's my favorite.
He's my friend.
Yeah, a friend of mine actually used to work out in Burbank at the old Gold's Gym, and he said that Mario Lopez used to work out there, and he was a yeller at the gym, like,
Oh, really?
"Ooh," you know, that shit. It's like, bro.
No disrespect to Mario. He's a good friend of mine, but that's kind of retarded.
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't know him, and yeah, I'm sure he's a great guy.
He's just a gym screamer. That's all.
I actually look like him when I take my shirt off.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. When I'm sending dick pics to my wife.
Yeah, Mario Lopez.
Yeah, totally.
I use the Mario
that's my
Lopez
handle.
filter. Yeah, so that is too funny, man. So I thank you so much for being a guest on the show. I wanted to catch up with you because it's been a minute. I was thinking about how long we've known each other. I met you in 2006.
Was it?
Yeah.
In 2006.
Yes. Whew. I know.
Boy, that's a long time ago, isn't it?
Oh, it's 14 years. I mean,
my goodness.
Yeah, I mean,
that's crazy.
Yeah, and I remember going to I think it was Borderlines, the country bar. Remember, we went to a country bar.
Oh yeah. Oh no. We drove past the one in Burbank you're talking about. Oh no. Oh yeah. We did. We where they do the electric slide in sort of a country form. Yeah.
How do you not remember that? Every woman in the place wanted to bang you.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug, man.
You could have been like Oprah in that place. You get some dick. You get some dick.
Dude, I totally forgot about that. Yeah. That was in that weird. God, I don't even remember what city that was in.
I think it was out towards Anaheim.
It was a long drive for nothing.
Yeah.
In hindsight.
Yeah, I just remember you pulled up in that brand new Benz you had, and I was like, Jesus, this guy's doing way better than me.
Wait, dude, but you had a caddy at that point.
Oh, well, yeah, I always
You've always had caddies.
I always roll with the sedan. Now I got the Chrysler 300.
You're kidding. No. What, for the kids?
Well, yeah, I had to ditch the two-door. I had the Accord Coupe, and I had to ditch that because putting kids in and out of a two-door is like murder.
Dude, you could have done a caddy, though, with the big bench seat in the back, man. You could have thrown seats back there, and, you know.
I could have. I should have.
Right. Again, hindsight.
In hindsight, a caddy is perfect. You're right. So I wanted to get into it with you, the progression of your career, where you kind of started.
Oh, Jesus. Where it stopped. where it stalled.
You're on the rise, brother. You're on the rise. You created you created a whole new fan base, bashing your buddy Robin Thicke.
Dude, you know what's funny, man, is the fan base that I had back then from the show, that ship is sailed. Like those fans are all grown-ups, and they're like, what the fuck are we still fans for? But now all of a sudden, like the younger kids are getting back into the show, and they're watching some of the stuff I'm doing now. So it's like, it's cool watching this new fan base grow. Cause who would have, who would have thought the first fan base would have been there, let alone a whole second one. It's pretty incredible. It's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I'm rewatching my DVD.
Dude.
And this is actually an autographed copy. Do you see your signature there?
Yeah.
I won't say what it says because we don't want to be part of the cancel culture.
Okay. Right. Touche.
Don't worry, everybody. It was nothing racist.
No.
Inside joke. Um, but yeah, I mean, that show, I remember trying to do my hair like you guys. And,
Jesus.
I mean, that thing was a monster. I remember you telling me the stories about how you guys had the 90210 cruise. Like there was a cruise.
Oh yeah. So it wasn't a 90210 cruise. It was a Fox cruise. And, Fox was this younger network. So they would try and come up with these really cool, like, oh, this will be fun. Like we'll put, cast members from 90210 and Martin and all these shows on a cruise ship. And, they'll cruise down to Mexico and like, we'll party and we'll shoot like trailers for different shows and different like advertising bumps and things. And we were all young. We were like, yeah, that'll be awesome. And then you realize you're on a cruise ship with a bunch of people that you can't get away from. Oh. And so, like you're living on a cruise ship. And it's like, okay, it's fun the first night. And then, literally they're waiting outside your cabin door. And your cabin is like, a 6x9 cell. They're so small on these cruise ships. And so you get out of your room and everybody's in the hallway like, hey, can you autograph this? And, can you hang out at the pool with it? And so you're just on display for the whole thing. So we took the cruise ship down to Mexico. And then we took limos or cars back to Los Angeles.
Oh my God.
We just left the cruise ship. We got off and we were like, okay, cool. Fair enough. That was awesome.
Who was in your limo? Was it you and the whole cast or no?
No, it was just me.
Wow.
I remember Tashina Arnold, who was doing Martin at the time. She took a helicopter, I think, back to LA.
That's some baller shit.
Balling, yeah, balling. Yeah.
I don't think I'd get in a helicopter now at all.
Yeah, helicopters are. I always had a dream of, if anything, like buying a helicopter because the fuel is inexpensive and you can fly around and land anywhere you want, whatever. But yeah, they apparently are not that safe.
Yeah, it's a weird concept because you have a propeller on top of you. You got a propeller in the back. I mean, it seems like a disaster. But
it seems like it, except, have you ever flown a helicopter?
No, I've never been in one.
Oh, really?
No.
Yeah, they're a bit intimidating to be in, but I've flown them. A friend of mine flies, like he's got his license and he was like, oh, you should get your hours and all that. And I was like, yeah, sure, totally. And then you do it and you're like, this blows. But it's really helicopters, the idea of them and what they train helicopter pilots for are these auto rotations where if the power goes out, it's not supposed to be like a Flintstones cartoon where the propeller just stops and then it just drops out of the sky. It slowly starts to wind down. And so the idea is learning how to land a helicopter while it's doing that. So it's supposed to never fall out of the sky. And, most of the time they don't. But then you just have these horrible crashes where it's like, view is not good and people just run into things. And they seem really horrible compared to planes that tend to more, if you have like electronics failures and all of that, and you can't control the plane, they're horrible disasters. So that used to be the thing that would keep people from wanting to get a pilot's license or get a plane. But at this point, I'm just sort of avoiding flying.
Yeah, stay away from that shit. It's selfish. If you go on any type of flying thing and something happens, everybody's going to be really upset, including your kids. Like that's why I say I can't skydive. I missed that window because if I skydive and something
you can't do it now. Yeah, I did it when I was young. I wouldn't do it now.
Yeah.
The bucket list, thank God I did that when I was like 17. I was like, oh yeah, go skydiving. I didn't, I had no responsibilities. My parents would have been bummed. My sister would have been bummed, but it would have been okay.
It would have been bummed if you died.
Yeah, of course. I would assume.
My God, the things you probably did when you were 17. Holy shit. Like Jack
Yeah.
Nicholson over here.
I always say, man, thank God like the internet didn't exist and social media and paparazzi didn't, because we like doing the show, we got away with so much shit just because people, nobody knew. It wasn't there were 3 photographers in Los Angeles, and this was during the time when like photographers were paparazzi, but you knew the 3 people,
Right.
and they would like develop pictures like Peter Parker. They'd develop them and sell them to magazines, and it would take like a week before they would come out, and you were in physical magazines.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And now they get pictures of you. They get pictures of you, and they're already on the internet before you've even done the shit that they get pictures of. Like, you're still in the store, and they've got a picture of you walking out of the store with groceries, and you're like, how the fuck did that happen? I didn't even buy the groceries yet.
Yeah, they're like, look at Brian Austin Green in this photo. He's going to go home and enjoy that porterhouse leaving Ralph's.
And you're still at Ralph's?
Yeah, you're still at Ralph's. You're like, what the fuck?
Right,
now you don't even want the porterhouse.
Right. But then you climb into your DeLorean and you're like, I guess it could happen.
That is great. So when you were on the show, first off, walk me through it. How were you on Aaron Spelling or
the Radar?
Yeah, the Radar. Was it from Knots Landing? Knots Landing was much younger though, right?
Knots Landing was a lot younger, but the Hollywood like kid actor bubble was really small at that point. There were only like a couple dozen of us. So once I did Knots Landing, then you get sort of in the cycle and the loop of teen magazines, and you're doing all that. And I think Tori is the one that mentioned me originally to her dad, because she was reading Tiger Beat and all those magazines. She was around the same age. But then I went in and auditioned for the show like everybody else did. And Aaron Spelling was at this point in his career where he had done like Love Boat, and he had, Fantasy Island, and he had done all these shows, and he had had all these successful things, but then he hadn't had anything successful for a while. So from the story I heard, 90210 was sort of like his last shot. Like he was going to do that, and if it didn't work, he was going to bow out gracefully and have his $47 million house and all that shit, and be cool. And then 90210 just like blew up, and it created this whole new sensation of how programming could be made and how kids could be involved in it, and that you could have these nighttime drama soaps starring kids about kids, and kids would watch them. Like it wasn't all about like Dallas and Dynasty and Knots Landing and that whole thing, and just appealing to older housewives that were at home wanting something to watch.
Sure.
But yeah, I auditioned for it, like everybody else on the show did. It was real. At that point, it was just a pilot. So I had already done like 12 pilots or something at that point, which.
And now a pilot, for people who don't know, a pilot is where it's basically a one-off.
Yeah, you do a one episode of something. The idea is that networks don't want to spend the money to do a series, to do a season of something. So they'll give a producer enough money to shoot one episode of something.
It's like
and what they'll do is right. So you'll go and you'll shoot it, and then the network will watch it, and then they'll do audience testing and all of that and see how it does. And if it tests really well, then they'll talk about it at the upfronts, and they'll give you a budget, and they'll go, okay, hey, go do. We didn't even get a full season pickup. We got like a front 9 episode pickup or something like that. So we did 8 more episodes, because episode 1 was the pilot. If you watch it now, like it's not, it like visually, it doesn't really match up with the series at all. Like none of the locations are the same. They're all sort of different because you just buy those locations for a one-time thing. So anything that I've ever done, like when I did Wedding Band, that series on TBS, we did a pilot, and you watch the pilot and all of the locations are different from the locations that we actually shot for the series, because at that point you build sets, you do all that stuff. But for the pilot, you find locations that work because you don't have the money to have a sound stage or build sets. So you would find these locations like, oh, it's a, we'll use this as the office or that is the house or whatever. So watching the shows, then that's why when you watch episode 1 of something, all of that stuff is usually completely different from what you see in the series.
Right.
Because from the series on, you have enough money to go, to find a sound stage and build those sets and do that and sort of have a more permanent, a semi-permanent take on things than you do for the pilot. Yeah. So we went and we shot a pilot, and that was done, and it was like, oh, cool. So then you do the pilot, and then you go back out auditioning for stuff, and you always have your fingers crossed that a pilot gets picked up, but you don't really have faith in it. It's not like you put those they're not eggs in a basket. You're not like, you're not waiting for the pickup knowing it's going to happen and then you're going to go do something else. And so, so we got the pickup for 9, and we did 9 episodes, and still nobody watched the show. But Fox was young enough at that point that they were kind of like, we have nothing to lose. We only have like 3 shows on the air. We're a cable network at this point. Fox wasn't even a full-blown network yet.
Yeah, I think it was you guys, Martin.
It was us, Martin, America's Most Wanted,
right.
Married with Children, Tracy Ullman.
Yes, and that is where the
and the Gary Shandling show.
Oh, rest in peace, Gary Shandling.
Yeah. Right. So it was a real small group, and it was, at that point, it was a cable network. It was like you had to get cable to get Fox. And so that was sort of the big thing for us was we did the 9 episodes. Nobody was watching, but Fox was like, fuck it, finish up the season. So they picked us up for the back 13, and still nobody really watched. But we had this sort of, new crazy idea. And because it was Aaron Spelling and Fox, Aaron had this idea of like, hey, let's shoot these summer episodes. So when kids go on summer break from school and most shows go on hiatus, they have new episodes. And kids watched literally from episode 1 of that. And then they went back and they watched all the episodes. And the show it was an overnight thing. It went from nobody watching to everybody was watching. And all the kids that wanted to watch but couldn't get that channel where they lived, they were writing it. It was letters at this point. There wasn't even email.
Yeah, sure.
So they were flooding Fox with letters saying, we want to see the show. Where can we see it? And so Fox was buying up all of these old affiliate stations across the country that were being moved out of or moved from or being built for something else. And Fox became, I don't want to say became a network because of our show, but 90210 was a big catalyst for that.
It did. That shaped the way that all stations, channels program stuff.
It's amazing that, when you get, having kids, like when your kids demand something, you're much more willing to put yourself out there to get something done than if you want something done. Like you'll want something and you'll want a certain thing from the grocery store and they're like, oh, we don't have that. And you're like, fuck it. Like you let it go. But if your kids want want certain, those mashable
the
applesauce things. Yeah. Then you'll petition and you'll write letters and you'll go above and beyond to make sure that it happens because you want your kids to get off your back a little bit. So, that's what happened with our show. We had something that kids wanted to see and everybody was talking about. And so once the parents petitioned and and the network expanded and kids watched it, then the kids got their parents to watch it. And then it just became this phenomenon. And Fox then, it started selling the show to foreign, distributors and foreign networks, and we had all of these stations around the world, either broadcasting and subtitling it, or I remember watching the show for the first time in Spain, and so it was all dubbed in Spanish, and I was like, man, my voice sounds terrible. Like, this is never the worst the worst like dubbing actor ever, like a 10-year-old boy doing my voice. And I was like, man, this is never gonna work for me. It was called Sensación de Vivir, Sensations of Life. That was 90210 in Spain. But yeah, it just got overnight, like it just became this crazy thing. It was really an insane ride. I mean, to go from watching the news and watching like New Kids on the Block,
sure,
videos, and them, like, and kids like bum rushing the tour bus and them running, and the kids climbing over chain link fences and all that stuff, and like pounding on car windows and stuff. And then all of a sudden watching news footage and it's you and kids doing the exact same thing. It was like, wow, it couldn't have been more surreal. The only
kids that pound on my car are my kids.
Right, yeah. Going, hey, the ice cream truck's out front.
Hey, what are you going to do?
Dad, give us money.
What are you going to do for me today? Are you going to sit down and pretend to watch Vin Diesel's pacifier and like it? So obviously, if you could do it over again, you wouldn't take that aspect out of your life.
No. That was a cool time. I mean, that was shit. Every experience I had, good and bad, shaped who I am now. And so I wouldn't change any of it ever. I mean, looking back on all of it, it's like every little piece of the puzzle has made the puzzle that I am today. And it'll continue to, people continue to find edge pieces and things and expand the puzzle. But I'm grateful for all of it. All of it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm grateful that you did it too. I love that show. When you were on the show, who was the biggest pain in the ass? I'm sure you get this all the time. And it doesn't have to be the main cast member. It could be anybody. I mean, do you remember anybody being like a real pain in the ass where they were like thrown off set or where it halted production,
The biggest pain in the ass, and not in a negative way, because I love him, was Ian. Oh. So Ian used to have temper tantrums. He used to tantrum like, I used to call them El Zeno fits, because El Nino was the big thing in California. So you would get to set and like the show aired, and they would cut out a storyline or something for time because they had it. The show was too long, and so his scenes would get cut, and he would get very emotional about those things. And so I'd come into work, and you'd go in the front office, and like a window would be broken, and a fucking chair would be hanging out of a wall, and like all these crazy things, like the front mailboxes, when you walked into the office, it looked like somebody tried tearing them off the wall and they didn't come off the wall. And so you'd realize like, oh, El Zeno is here. Like, something had happened, and it wouldn't be a lasting thing, but he would spin out of control emotionally for a minute. Like he would perpetually, he'd become the Hulk and just destroy anything in sight. And so, not a pain in the ass thing. It became a very humorous thing, right. But still, it was like, oh man, El Zeno was here, because it would look like Coachella was fucking there the night before. Like there was, totally, yeah. Like, okay, somebody stage dived here and missed. Like this is really.
It's like, no, we just we cut Ian's line or two.
I remember
That's
he
great.
did. I don't remember what the storyline did. It was something he took real pride in. Like he worked with his acting coach on and was like, it was a big deal. And that storyline got cut from the episode and nobody called him to be like, hey, Ian, we ran long, so we had to cut your stuff. So he would be the type that he would watch the airing of episodes. And then when stuff wasn't there, he'd be like, what the fuck, man? He would like tell everyone to watch tonight, it's a huge mistake to make. I never made that mistake. I always told people like, don't watch the show.
I did
stupid.
that. I made that mistake. I did
Really?
Jamie Kennedy and my buddy Stu Stone's show. And
I remember when they did that show. I did. Yeah. I went up to Jamie's house.
Yes, right on Fairfax. It was a big orange house.
Yeah.
I went in there and Stu was very good friends with him. And it was like they were auditioning a rapper. And Stu was like, hey, Jamie doesn't know you're coming in. So we're going to record this. So it's going to be a great reaction. So when he cuts you off, I want you to cuss him out and act crazy. So I did that, in the scene, it's like Jamie's auditioning people to join his rap group. And, I kick some freestyle and stuff. He's like, all right, man, that's it. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I blow up on him. And then I just stormed out. And Jamie comes running out and he goes, hey, man, this was just, it's nothing personal. And I was like, no, this fucking guy told me to do it. And I pointed at Stu and it was a whole thing. So, Stu was like, hey, your episode's going to air tonight. And it was.
So you told everyone?
Oh, I told everybody. And it was great because I was in the episode, but it was like,
hey, much?
Jamie, we're going to audition people. And
they just showed you walking with sides and it said your name.
Yeah. I think I was
you were in a montage.
Yeah. I think I said something like, I'll chop you like a helicopter propeller. And then it just cut it off. Yeah. But I told everybody and my uncles and everybody tuned in and they were like, you got me watching this MTV shit. And we see you for 2 seconds. I know the guy. Well, can he get you in your next thing? That's the best thing ever. Like people who are not in the business.
Yeah.
They're like, well, what the fuck? Can he get you in something? I'm like, dude, I mean, if
it doesn't fucking work that way.
If he's Brad Pitt, he could probably be like, make this guy carry my bags in a scene or something.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Those strings to pull are much shorter than you think they are. Like they're not.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, now it's insane.
Yeah.
Now it's like I can't get work for myself, let alone for a fucking friend.
Well, dude, I mean, you brought, it was crazy. Speaking of current work, I mean, seeing you on The Masked Singer, that was awesome. Because I watched that with my kids, and my kids were like,
Did you have no idea?
No. And then, no, I didn't. But then it was kind of one of those things when you took the mask off, I was like, motherfucker, I should have known that.
Yeah, the clues were fucking good.
They were good, but they weren't like way out there. It's not like, his initials were D and S on the show 90210. It wasn't like, they were kind of.
It wasn't spot on like that.
They were great, but
what was funny though was watching people's guesses because the guy that produces the show, he would text me every once in a while and he would be like, they're going crazy online, but nobody can figure out it's you. Like people thought I was either Fred Durst or they thought I was one of the guys from Hamilton. Like it was all these crazy, a couple people thought I was Vanilla Ice. I was like, okay, well that's, thanks. But yeah, nobody knew it was me, man. And it's funny how many people they started attaching clues to people that they thought it would be. And then all of a sudden, now that you know it's me and you watch the clue package, you're like,
right.
Of course.
Yeah. So,
of course.
Yeah. I feel like I should have known that being a friend and a stalker of yours.
No, I don't want to say I'm disappointed because that's something that your parents, I'm sure, said to you. But
for sure. Not a lot of emotional support.
We're not upset with you, but we're disappointed. Right? Yeah. Stung way more than being mad at me.
My middle name is Disappointment. James Disappointment Betterton.
Right. I used to have an iron-on all my clothes.
Yeah. Just right on the tag. Disappointment.
Patch.
It's like a dunce cap.
Yeah. It was fun though, man. Masked Singer was really fun. It was really cool being like completely anonymous while I was shooting that. And then having to not say anything ever to anyone about it while it was starting and airing. Like I couldn't, it was weird to finish a job, like to say bye doing it and then be like, okay, but you still can't talk about it.
Right.
Because it hasn't aired.
Yeah.
So it was like, so I just had to, like, nobody knew I did it. My parents didn't know. The kids didn't know. Nobody knew.
Did your kids watch it though?
I thought it'd be fun, and then they fell asleep. They fell asleep like 15 minutes into it. It starts at 8:00. So by 8:15, they were fucking out.
Kids
I posted a picture of them sound asleep on the couch. I was like, so we watched it on Hulu. They had no idea. They watched both episodes, and then I took off the mask, and they were like, wait a minute, that was you? I should have videotaped it.
Shit, 8:00, your kids are in bed, man. You're dead and right, dude. I get my kids in bed. It's like it's like an hour process. They turn into like a frat house.
Really?
2 of them at like 8:00. I'm like, what's going on?
Really? Yeah, they get into that like witching hour where they want to jump on things and wrestle, and you're like, wait, let's calm this down. Let's like start toning down what's happening right now. Yeah.
And then I have to put them in headlocks and force
them. Right.
So.
See, you have to cut that off at the knees before that even starts. Oh. Like as soon as they start getting rambunctious, you have to cut that off and go, no. Like we're not now. We got to sit on the couch. We're going to watch something. Let's put on your pajamas. Like, let's get the bedtime process happening. So at the point when it's bedtime, you guys aren't rambunctious anymore, but you can't, because kids will do that. Like my, the kids will do that. They'll start getting on the couch and wanting to jump around and wrestle and do all that. And if I don't put the kibosh on that, it becomes WWF real fast. Like kids get into that worked up thing and they become like the little robot in WALL-E. Like they're just, they just want to beat up everything. And so you gotta cut that off at the knees. You gotta go straight. What was that movie where she hobbled him?
Misery.
Misery. Yeah, you have to go Misery style on him. Like you have to
I hobbled my oldest. That's why he walks with a limp.
Did you? Right. In a good way, but right. I broke his feet.
Just a little snap.
It was like a small block of wood. His bones were thin. They'll grow back. He'll be okay.
He's strong.
Kids recover.
I rub powdered
milk to walk it off.
I rub powdered milk on his calves.
Just walk it off. You'll be fine. I know it hurts, but only for a second.
So now you have 3 boys.
4.
I mean, yeah, you know what? He's so old, Cash, now.
He's 18.
That's crazy.
I have an 18-year-old, man.
Yeah, he's such a good kid. I mean, I'm sure all your kids are good kids, but
he's such a good kid.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I have 3 young kids, which is I'm 47, man. That shit hurts.
What is it, like 7, 6, and 4?
8, 6, and 4.
8, 6, and 4.
Yeah, Noah just turned 8 in September on the 27th.
Yeah, Rocco will be 7 in November, and then Rome will be 5 in January.
It's crazy. I haven't even met them.
Yeah,
I haven't even seen them. I haven't seen Lonnie in that long, which is insane.
Well, once things get better, hopefully.
Right. Once things balance out.
Yeah, once things balance out. If not, we'll do this again, but we'll put a candle on the table and have like dinner.
Right. Yeah, we'll have no power.
We'll have no power.
We'll be eating other body parts.
Yeah, it is fucked up though, man.
It is.
And it's crazy because I remember, I still joke about it a little bit just to kind of keep things loose, but I remember when it first came around and I took a picture of my sneaker hitting the crosswalk button and I was like, coronavirus isn't going to get me.
I remember I had a meeting with a buddy of mine up at Seth Green's office up at Stupid Buddy Pictures for a cartoon that
they do a lot of work up there. That's good work.
Yeah, they're fucking awesome,
Yeah.
man. Seth and Brecken are super
How
fucking
long have
talented.
you known them? You've known
I've known,
Brecken for a long time.
yeah. So I've actually known Seth, I think, even longer. But remember, I was talking about how small the kid pool was.
Yeah.
When I was a kid acting, it was so small that like there would be commercial auditions, and it was all the same fucking people going in for everything because there was like Seth Green was the only redhead kid. I was the only one with like short feathered hair. Like it was very specific. Like, oh, bring them all in. One of them will fit. And so I knew, like, I grew up with Leo and Toby, and like that. It was this small group of kids that were all actors. So we were all doing all the teen magazine things and all the stuff. Um, but I've known Seth since then. So like, to go up to his office now and see all the stuff they're doing and see how well he's done doing that is crazy, because it's like, man, I still see you as the like 13-year-old kid, and you're a grown ass man. Like, you're doing it. You've got, I need a parking space and a security badge to get into your offices. Like, it's for real. Like, you're doing
Yeah.
it.
I mean, sure. I mean, the pinky bought him his fortune, right? I mean,
Yeah. Dude,
well,
so they're doing all sorts of stuff now. They're doing stuff for Marvel, and Marvel is so secretive with all of it. They had to rebuild their offices just for security protocol with Marvel. And you go up there and it's all like, you have to check in on an iPad and type in your name and who you know and who you're there to see. And then you sit in the waiting room, and then they have cameras everywhere. And then they come out with a security badge, and then they buzz you into the net. You have like all these, it's like watching, it's like watching Get Smart with all the doors that
right.
open and close, and it's like that. Like, you have this whole, like, all these hoops to jump through to get into like the main core of his office. But it's really crazy to see. It's really crazy to be like, I know this dude. Like, how, why can I not just walk in here? And it's like, well, we don't know you that way. So
You knew him before he got laid.
yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I knew him when his penis was this small.
This big. Wait, this big. Yeah, no, that's they do I can't remember the name of the cartoon they do with the superheroes.
Yeah,
I loved it. It was on Crackle for a minute. I'm sure it.
I haven't seen that, but I mean, they work with Lucas doing like some Star Wars stuff, and they're doing all sorts of stuff. And then I did a few episodes of Robot Chicken when they were doing that.
Yeah.
And then they did these cool little spinoffs. Like, I did Kratos from God of War,
God
the
of
video
War.
game.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. And so then they did ads for Sony at one point. So I would come back and reprise that role just for those ads, which was kind of cool. Like, these ads would be these crazy, you'd have these, the new God of War coming out, and then it would be like, the little Kratos figure that they did, and then my voice doing it, so it was cool. I mean, I ended up doing like 5 or 6 different things for them. And that's a cool little family to be in, because the way they're so good at what they do. But it's like, to go in and do voice work on that level, like, they're all just idiots, and they just want to have fun. And so you go in, and it's just have as much fun as you can.
That's awesome.
And we'll record it. And then seeing what they do in post, and, and building these sets and the characters and lighting everything and shooting it and doing all that. It's unbelievable what they're doing, man. The last time I was up there with him, with my partner, we saw they had done something. It was the little micro machines.
Oh yeah.
But it was an action show that they did starring micro machines, not talking, not doing anything, just like, these crazy violent, like, micro machine wars. And so one's going down the highway, and all of a sudden, a truck pulls out behind them, and there are these little cars, and they built this highway, this whole like set on a tabletop. It was so small, but it's like action packed. Like, they're racing in the country and a deer goes out in the road, and the semi hits the deer and the deer head ends up on the hood of the car, and they have like gun turrets that come out, and they have like all these things exploding and all this stuff, and it's this like really high action like Michael Bay style thing, but they're little micro machines. And it's amazing what they do, man. It's really
like the video game Spy Hunter. Remember Spy Hunter?
Totally. Spy Hunter.
Great.
Yeah. It's they do that level of stuff. It's really cool. It's really like to watch that stuff is really admirable. Like they've completely they've mastered what it is they do. And there's nobody else that can do it. Have you seen the intro for Jon Favreau's cooking show?
Yes.
They did that whole intro thing, it's awesome. It's so fucking cool.
Yeah, that is cool, man. I love like that animation, that stop motion.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah, that crazy like claymation, for us. Yeah, for us, it's like that's the throwback to me of like the old holiday cartoons of like
Rudolph
and Frosty and all that stuff. That and David and Goliath, that show that I used to watch when I was a kid. Like those were all stop motion animation, like claymation kind of things. Even the Gumby cartoons were that sort of thing. But they've just taken it to a whole new level. Like it's really cinematic what it is they do, and they have amazing effects and amazing sound, and it's really fun.
I guess we time-stamped our age with the references to Get Smart, Gumby, and David and Goliath.
Right, yeah.
I think you have 6 years on me. I'm 40. I'll be 41.
I'm 47.
Are you? So you got 7 years. Well, not quite that.
Well, no, because you're turning 41 soon, right?
Right. Yeah, November
what?
29th.
Dude, happy birthday, man. That's coming up. November 29th is like tomorrow in COVID days.
That's true.
Like
true.
This year, 2020, I can't believe it's October now of 2020. Like, what? I remember in 2019, that being a crappy year and being like, man, 2020 is the year. Everything's going to turn around and going to be great. And now looking back on 2020, it's like, Jesus Christ.
I said that on New Year's Eve.
How far off was I?
Oh,
I was the furthest thing from a psychic in January. Like
I gained 25 pounds during all this shit. And I said, this is my year, just like everybody. You know what I have in common with everybody in the world? On New Year's Eve of 2020, I said, this is my year. And it was not anybody's year. I mean, I guess if you won Lotto, if you hit Powerball, you could be like, fucking 2020.
Was there even Lotto this year? Was there even Powerball?
Everybody's dying in your family. You're like, this is the best. I won 80 million.
Thank God I hit it big.
Yeah, thank God I hit it big while there was a pandemic, so nobody's asking me for money because they're all dead.
Because there's no cell service. Because literally no one's anywhere. It's how fucking crazy. I remember going into Seth's office, full circle. Let's go back around to like making fun of the pandemic before it started. I remember going into Seth's office as it was just starting, and he had hand sanitizer on his desk in the conference room. And I was like, hand sanitizer. I'm not using that shit. We're going to be fine. And a week later, going into the grocery store and aisles empty, like pasta sauce, pasta, toilet paper, paper towels, like rice. I remember going to the frozen section and going, I guess I'll get that for I would never in a million years buy that for my kids. And it was like, you were buying the best of the crap that was left.
Yeah, you were like I guess Stouffer's.
God, this Chef Boyardee, I guess isn't that bad. I mean, like your Hamburger Helper. I don't know. I didn't even know they made this anymore.
Hamburger Helper's good with a little ground turkey. I'm just saying.
Right? Yeah. If you spice it up.
Yeah, spice it up. Oh, ragu's pretty good if you spice it up.
Right.
I would get
Yeah.
whacked.
If
I
you
would get
add
whacked
real
by-
tomatoes to it.
Yeah, I would get whacked by family members in my family if I brought home fucking ragu or brago.
Yo, what fucking choice did you
No,
have?
well, yeah, that.
You
yes.
go into the grocery store
Oh,
and
dude.
those aisles were empty, and literally there'd be like 2 jars in the back of something, and it would be, ragu and prego, and it was like, man, okay.
Yeah. You'd be like, I guess
And then
I'll get the sardines.
Yeah, and then you would stock up on whatever crap they had, and then you'd go back 2 days later, and the stuff you actually ate was there because they'd be restocking it, and then you had all this like crap that you couldn't. It was like, what am I gonna? You give it all to the food bank because it was you donate all of it because it was like, I can't. I wouldn't dare eat this. Like, I bought this upset at myself for purchasing this in the first place. Like,
Yeah.
if I can eat this better stuff, I'm not going to eat this crap. No way. I wouldn't feed this to my kids. I wouldn't feed this to my animals.
Speaking of animals, dude, I can't believe you built a chicken coop.
I'm now building a vegetable garden.
Now, did you do that all yourself with the drill,
Yeah.
the whole nine? Wow,
Yeah.
Good for you.
No, I didn't even go online.
No, I said the whole nine. You did it. You did it all. Like,
yeah. No, there's a hardware store. There's an Anawalt Lumber down the street from me, and they deliver, which was always the problem for me. Like, I've had tons of things remodeled and stuff like that. So I've always been interested in construction, and I've always watched guys when they've done it, but I've never done it myself. And I always had a fear of putting in posts and buying concrete and doing all that. I was like, I can't do that. That's a whole nother level of construction. And so then I had this idea. I had 2 different friends who their kids went to school with my kids, and they did these projects at their house. Like, one built a deck and an outdoor kitchen, and then the other moved, and he built like all these, he built all this cool stuff. And I was like, man, I can totally do that. Like, why am I not doing that? So I went to Anawalt Lumber, found out they delivered. I was like, that's been like the biggest hurdle for me is like, I go into hardware stores and it's like, unless you can cut wood down to 4 feet things, how am I going to even get this stuff home? I can only buy 2 bags of concrete at a time. I'm not going to put all this shit in my trunk.
Yeah.
So once I realized like, oh, they'll deliver all this, then you start getting to like, okay, I'll take 12 of those 15-foot boards. I'll take, 6 of those 10-foot 4x4s. And then all the stuff is at your house, and you do it. And then once you can do it and you realize, oh, I can do this, then you start looking around going, I kind of want to do this, and it'd be cool to have this. And you start building all this stuff. And like, I look around my house now and I think like, it'd be nice to you see pictures of like outdoor things done, and you start realizing like, oh, it'd be nice to put some beams and a cover over this to make this like a livable patio instead of what it is now. And you realize like, oh, I can do it. And it's, you know what? It's therapeutic. It's like, if you're stuck at home, but you can be stuck at home doing something, and you do it, and then you get to enjoy. Like, my chickens now live in my chicken coop, and my kids go to the chicken coop every day. And it's really well built, and it's painted, and it's cool. And it's like, man, it's awesome. Like,
how many chickens you have?
I have 6.
That's crazy. So
yeah.
I guess it's not crazy, but
you know what?
Awesome.
I had a chicken coop before. The house that I have, there was an old gazebo. So I just had the gardeners put chicken wire on it and make it secure so the chickens would be safe in it. And they were, but the problem I had was with ground squirrels out here in Malibu. And so they would dig in and they would eat all the chicken food. I'm going to bore your audience now, because they're like, I don't give a shit about any of this. Who fucking cares?
You're a farmer.
I do. Yeah, I do. This means a lot to me.
Farmer Austin Green.
Yeah. Crazy. So yeah, I had these ground squirrels that would get into my chicken coop, and they would eat all the chicken food. And I would go through like a bag of chicken food every 2 days. And I got to the point where I was like, listen, I can keep trying to figure out Band-Aids for what I have here, or I can just build something. and just build something from scratch. And so I was like, I'm going to do it. Like I'm stuck at home. It's quarantine. Like, why not?
Yeah.
So I went and bought stuff and started building, and it becomes fun. Like once you put the posts in, then you start going, I can kind of build whatever I want. Like, you know, where do I want the windows to be and how do I want this to work? And so I would just be walking around during the day in the sun, figuring out what I wanted to do. And then I would just do it. And I did it completely by myself. I had no idea what I was doing. And I was just winging it as I went. And it was successful.
Awesome.
So now I've moved on. Now I'm going to build like a vegetable garden that connects to it. And I have all these plans, and I sort of, I know as I do things like what the order is, what the steps are. So it's good. I have a good, I now can wrap my head around what it is I want to do. And then once you're in it, it's, you know, you're sort of still on the fly with it, but it's fun, man. Yeah. I enjoy it.
Well, we have peppers growing in the back, and they're fantastic. I go out there all the time, and I'm like,
and there's something cool too with your kids of like when they see something growing, like, you know, that was the big catalyst for me in growing a vegetable garden, is like, because the kids don't eat well otherwise, but they'll go out to the chicken coop every day and they'll collect eggs, and then sure enough, they want scrambled eggs every morning for breakfast instead of chocolate cereal. So it's like, okay, let me do a vegetable garden and let's grow that stuff and do berries on one side and vegetables on one. And so then when it's time to harvest, you know, you go in there with the kids and you go, hey, look at all the strawberries. And then they want to eat them. Yeah. And so you start slowly getting them into that. So green food doesn't seem like something you've bought in a store that is foreign and alien. It's like, oh no, we planted these seeds and we grew this stuff, and hey, it tastes great. And look, we made a salad out of all of this, and that's how it works. So it's kind of cool, man, living off the land a little bit, you know, distancing ourselves from grocery stores and society is kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, salad. I mean, that's great that your boys eat salad. I mean, salad to
no, they don't eat salads yet.
I was going to say salad.
That's a goal.
Salad to my kids is like pussy to
it's poison.
It's just not happening.
Oh, that's fucking hilarious.
So, jumping back, we're all over the place, and I love it. What was like a big audition? What was the last audition that you went on where you were really like nervous because you really wanted it?
The last thing that I went in for that I really wanted was, it ended up being the Sarah Connor Chronicles, because I growing up, I was a huge Terminator fan.
Yeah, who was
the Terminator films? Like T2 was back during the time when home 5.1 systems were starting and laser discs were out. And it was like every store that you went into that sold like TVs and sound systems and all of that, they were all showing demos of Terminator 2 because the sound was so amazing and the picture was so amazing. Yeah. And I remember when I got the call, like, hey, you're going to audition tomorrow to be Kyle Reese's brother. I was like, that's so badass. Yeah. That's so cool. Like that was one of those things where I thought, I really, really want to do this.
Now, like, was Mario Casar involved in that?
No. David, who was it that directed that? David, what was his name? I forget his last name. Cameron was involved just because he owned the Terminator franchise, but at that point it had sort of changed hands a few times. We had a really cool cast though. We had, Summer Glau played the Terminator. Oh my God, I'm blanking.
What's his name? David
Nutter was the director. That's who it was.
Yeah, who was the kid in that? Like,
that was Thomas Dekker.
That's right, Thomas.
Yeah,
Dekker. That's right.
It was Lena Headey, who played Sarah Connor. But we had like, we just had that was one of those situations where the cast, the crew, the writers, the directors, everyone was just, they were going full cylinder. Like everything was vibing the right way. Like every guest actor that we hired, Garrett Dillahunt, who played, the Terminator in that, what's her name from Garbage, Shirley Manson. She was fucking great. Like we had all these people that, I mean, guest cast, and guys that had one line and 5 lines. Everybody was so good. Like they were these little mini movies that we were fortunate enough to shoot every episode. And Josh Friedman, who created the show and was the head writer, he had done War of the Worlds for Spielberg and all these like really cool things. And he was just a genius with what he had in mind for it, and the Bible for it was really cool. And it was really cool to be able to dive into the story a little more, like the whole, the time travel aspect of it, compared to what was limited within the films. Like the whole, working within that was really, it was really cool. And being a fan of Terminator, like to have the opportunity to, I remember, doing an episode and it was my character before he had time traveled. So, fighting Terminators and holding the blasters and all the stuff. And it was like, man, I saw all this in the films.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I'm getting to do all of this. It was really surreal. It was really cool. Like to grow up being a fan of something and then all of a sudden be on set doing exactly what you saw and knowing like, man, I'm a part of the story of this now, like forever. I'm a part of
the Terminator timeline.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm in the franchise. I'm in the world of it.
That's awesome.
And people know like, oh yeah, there was T1, T2, Sarah Connor Chronicles took place between T2 and then T3. And like you have it all fits. It was really cool.
The last one I did not like, or no, the one that I didn't like was the Christian Bale one that Nick.
Terminator Salvation.
Yeah. I mean, there was cool.
That was Sam Worthington's first movie.
Yes. It was cool as a popcorn flick.
Right.
It wasn't like the popcorn flick that
the big Terminator that would fucking stomp through and would grab everybody. That was cool. Like there were cool things that way because technologically they could do a lot. Like there was a lot of cool stuff that way. But yeah, it was story wise. It wasn't. It was very miss for me.
Yeah. So now, what beefs do you have or did you have in Hollywood? Is there anybody that you just didn't like? And you don't have to mention them by name, or I mean, I would love for you to mention them by
name. I didn't really have any.
Nobody like Griffin Dune? Do we like Griffin Dune?
Who? Who is that? Is it you just made up a name?
No,
and you were like
American Werewolf in London and and After Hours with Scorsese. I think he's a little older than you.
Dude, talk about dating yourself. My God.
Tune in next week when I have Brian back. We're going to discuss F Troop and Green Acres.
Right. We're going to play with G.I. Joes. You're going to love it.
Yeah. And we're going to talk.
The more you know, the more you grow.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Yep. We're going to talk the old cartoons. We'll be discussing Heat Miser next week.
We'll be watching our favorite episode of Biker Mice from Mars.
Yes. Yes, that's so funny. So no real beefs.
No real beefs. You know what? I've always been pretty judicious. Like I tend to get along with everybody. I don't I try and find common ground with most people. I mean, there have been people here and there that have sort of rubbed me the wrong way, but those were more situational than character flaws. Those were like, there was a certain situation. It was like, yeah, this is a shitty situation. Like, you're not fucking handling this very well. And we would beef that way, but then it would be over. But yeah, I've really tried to, and I mean, being in this industry now, like, it's for as big as this industry is, it's gotten smaller. Like everybody, all producers and directors and writers, they all check what the experience was of other producers and writers with this actor, that actor. Like it's, everybody researches people now. So the people that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, they pay for it. Yeah. The karma for that that comes back around. And so I've been really lucky that I've always, I don't know if it was the fear my parents put into me when I was a kid of like, how of it being so important, how you were perceived. But I've always really tried to, like, when I go to work, be a hard worker and get along with everyone and try my hardest at the things that I do, and not phone shit in and not be a pain in the ass to work with and not leave a bad taste in anybody's mouth. And I think that's why I've had as long a career as I have, because a lot of the jobs that I've gotten have been because of previous jobs that I've had. Like it's all been like when I did Anger Management, the guy, Bruce Helford, who created that show and was the head writer.
You were great on that, by the way.
He did Freddie.
Yeah.
That was his show. And he was the head writer on that. And I had such a great relationship with him that he originally called me when Anger Management was first starting and was like, hey, can you come do an episode? Because I know what you do and I think you'll kill this character. And so I went and did one episode it was like, I think it was the second or third episode that they did. And I went and did one and I was like, hey, thanks for having me. And I had met Charlie before when he was doing 2.5 Men, and I was doing Sarah Connor because we were both on the Warner Brothers lot. Mm-hmm. So we got along really well, and that was a cool experience. And so I did the one and I was like, okay, thanks a lot. Went home. And then at the point when they had done 50 or 40 of the first, 45 of the first, they had this 1090 deal. No, it was 50. They did a 1090 deal, which nobody does anymore. It was really smart though for that time. They said, listen, how about we'll do 10 episodes of the show, and if the numbers are great and we surpass a certain expectation that you guys have rating wise, then you'll pick us up for the back 90 episodes.
Wow.
So that's exactly what they got. It was like, hey, we did well in the first 10, so you're going to guarantee us 90 episodes. Like that's
awesome.
Per contract. And nobody does that anymore because I think they learned their lesson on that. They were like, you lose your shows ass. Go downhill and we're stuck. Yeah. By the end of it, they were like, hey, how are we going to make money on this show? At the point when I'm making back end points.
Imagining the Brinks truck just backing into your driveway.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. 1090.
So yeah, he called and he was like, hey, do you want to come do 40 episodes? I was like, yeah, sure. Like, what am I, stupid? Of course I do. I'd love to. And so that's exactly what we did. And that was a cool experience, man. That was shot like no other mock live audience show I've ever done. I mean, we shot it like a live audience show. We had the sets built that way and the cameras worked that way, and it worked that way. Like we could have had a live audience, but we shot 2 episodes a week. So we would shoot one episode Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, half of Wednesday. And then the other half of Wednesday, we would start the next episode. We would shoot that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So every week we would do 2 episodes. We would show up, we'd do makeup and hair, we'd go to set, we would rehearse a scene, we'd go back, we'd finish in hair and makeup, they would light that scene, and then we would go and shoot it. That's and awesome. Be done with it. And we would shoot all the scenes that were in Charlie's living room with that cast until those were all done for that entire episode. And then we would move to the restaurant. We would shoot all that stuff. And so that's what we did. It wasn't like we would, we wouldn't rehearse for 4 days and then bring in the audience and have a live audience and have the energy of that for, tape night. There was no tape night. We shot every day like it was tape night, and we shot every scene like it was tape night. So the only laughter that we would have to react to was the crew and the writers that were all sort of huddled around the monitor watching, and the director, and they would all laugh out loud. And so we knew like, oh, that worked pretty well, but we didn't have an audience to react off of. So that was an interesting situation, but that was, work begot work in that situation. That was one of those, like, because I had a good relationship with somebody and worked well with somebody, I went back and worked more.
Yeah, because you were the new boyfriend of his ex-wife, if I remember correctly.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
in the first
you were
episode.
Great in that second episode when they introduced you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I remember what was funny was, I tend to, Freddie was a big thing for me because that was the first sitcom that I had done. And I've always been a fan of like dark comedy, and I've always had a certain sense of humor to me, but until you do it yourself, you don't know whether your sense of humor is funny and what you do is funny.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. Right. See, I would have done that differently.
Yeah. Jeez, that's so funny. Get up on stage, you hear crickets.
You fucking bomb.
Yeah. Just
like
eating my own shit.
Right. Okay. Fucking check that box. That didn't work. So doing the sitcom, doing the season of that was really, I got my feet wet in that understanding of like what you can do that an audience reacts to, and realizing like, it's not just the lines, but it's the stuff that you do. It's the things that you do between the lines. It's like what, it's the magic that happens between the words. So you can get a reaction. Yeah.
Sure.
Looks, certain actions and things. And so when I went to do the episode of anger management, the other writers said, they had written a script, and I really got on this kick of like, I'm going to sort of paraphrase things based on what I find is funny. And that's what I'm going to do. Not because I don't trust that other writers are funny. Listen, I'm using your joke. I'm just paraphrasing it in the way that I would speak it the best, and that I think is the funniest, and that I think would get the best reaction based on what I've done and what people have reacted to so far. And I remember Bruce telling me he was sitting in the little writers with the monitor, in the little writers area, and all the writers were like, oh wait, no, it's not written that way. Like everybody was freaking out about like, oh, he's changing this and that. And Bruce saying to him, just let him fucking do what he does. Like, trust me, this dude's funny. Just let him do what he does. And it ended up like, as soon as I did that, then when I came back to do the show, the writers had a really good sense of how I spoke and what I did. And so it was much easier for them to tailor what it was that I said as the character and what they wrote based on how they knew I would approach it. And they would, we would do table reads sometimes, and I wouldn't be able to be there for one reason or another. And so somebody would read Sean's stuff, but it became a thing for them. It became a challenge for them of like, who's going to read it the way Brian would do it? Like it was, so it became the challenge of like, can you have the cadence that he has and the way that he speaks and all of that? So it was cool. It kind of became fun for me. And that's something that I've taken into everything. I didn't do it much on Sarah Connor because that was such a specific character.
Well, you were a dark kind of,
and it was a military guy. It was like, I don't know shit about that, like bullets and and projectiles and how they work. And like, that's not, so I'm going to trust you guys. If you guys are telling me to say this, I'm going to trust that this is how the military would run this situation. Yeah. And I'm not going to paraphrase this so much, but this character being a fucking call girl, boy, a call boy, a male prostitute. I don't know what
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, a
yeah,
coxman, a
yeah,
coxman,
right. Yeah. Right.
much like yourself.
What's the way to say it that sounds professional?
A coxman.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Read the Bible and sell myself.
Yeah.
So, so the fact that I had a good take on like playing that, they played into it really well. That was fun. Charlie's a super good guy.
How's he doing? Do you talk to him at all? I mean, I know that
I don't talk to him much, but the experience that I had with him through that run was awesome. I mean, he was one of those guys that he would make a point of introducing himself to literally everybody that was in a scene.
cool.
All background, hey, how you doing? I'm Charlie. What's your name? And he would remember everybody and like say hello to everybody and bring, like, he was a super personable guy. Everybody that was there in the crew, they all came from 2.5 Men because he invited them and they wanted to continue to work with him. Like,
Yeah.
nobody that was there didn't know him and didn't have some sort of experience with him. And he's a really cool guy.
Yeah,
He's a nice guy.
yeah. When that show started, he was fresh off of 2.5 Men, basically, and it was like, here's
And
a
now
guy
that was
with
during the whole like him feuding
Piper
with
blood and all that stuff.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's crazy. A lot of people don't, realize that he was killing it on reruns,
Killing it.
2.5 Men, and then
Yeah.
killing on that show.
He was making, I think at the height of that, he was making $2 million an episode.
Fuck.
Yeah. Can you imagine that?
No, I would fake an injury after 8 and be like, I'd be like, I can't.
$2 million an episode. I mean, he was up into like, he was up in the $300 million range. Like, he was doing well for himself.
Yeah.
So to take a step into the anger management territory was a big risk for him. And he came off of that show and he was king of the world. Like, he was top in that field. He was the highest paid actor at that point, on television.
Yeah.
And he put it to FX for sure in that 1090 deal.
That's crazy.
He had major ownership of that show.
Because 90 episodes, I think that's like 2 full seasons, maybe 3. Is it?
You only do 22 22 a season.
So it was like a little over 3 seasons.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah. Crazy.
That's crazy. Man.
And we did all of those episodes in a year and a half because we were shooting 2 episodes a week. So we just it was a machine. We were just turning them out.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It was cool.
The good old days.
The good old days. I couldn't do that now. My back couldn't take it.
I just don't understand how you assholes remember all those lines.
Dude,
holy.
Well, at that point though, I mean, like, you sort of get in that rhythm of like, learn this. It's sort of like school. Like when I would study for tests, you would study really hard for a test. And then as soon as the test was done, you were like you just clear that out of your mind. You don't remember any of it at that point. Yeah. So it's the same thing with something like that. You remember stuff to shoot it. And then once they say wrap on that scene, you're like, thank God that's done.
Yeah.
And it's gone forever. Like every once in a while, somebody will say something in some stupid bit of information that you learned in a scene. It's like, oh, did you know the Grand Canyon? You have all these like really stupid, pointless.
Like, do you know who said the redcoats are coming? Yeah. Isn't that Paul Revere?
Right. Back when I was doing an episode of Anger Management, you're that guy.
Back when I was in Nam, we didn't knock on doors.
Right.
So back to like the auditioning process. What was like the first, like, how did you become an actor? Because I know your dad was a musician, right?
Yeah, I was going to school for music. That's all I was studying. And I went to an elementary school on the USC campus. It was a music academy, but it was across the street from the Shrine Auditorium.
Okay.
And being that it was on the USC campus, there were all these student directors that would come to the campus to pick kids for their student graduate films. So I ended up doing a few of those, and it was really fun. And a kid that I rode the bus with, he had an agent, and he was doing commercials. And he always had like really cool video games and stuff like that. He always had money.
Did he become?
He stopped acting, and he's doing, who knows what he's doing. Super nice guy though. I hope. It's been a while. Right.
It's Harvey Weinstein.
Right. Yeah. Right. Boy, that'd be awesome, right?
Yeah.
That'd be a really funny part of the story. So you think that's funny?
Yeah. Oh wait, there's more.
So I ended up. He always had money and toys, and I was like, dude, that's awesome. Like, my dad is like very middle. He's done well he's very middle class. Like, we're not hurting, but if I wanted a toy, it was like, how are you going to use this toy in your future? Like, what does it mean? I had to do a whole presentation of like why I wanted a puppet. And it was like, because I'm dying to be a puppeteer. Like, I had to do a whole like PowerPoint presentation with my dad to get anything. So I love the idea of that. I love the idea of like, you can make your own money and be responsible for that. So I went and I met with his agent, and I started doing commercials, and I just got busier and busier to the point where it was like, this is a career for me now. Like, this has gone from, I'm a kid that wanted to do commercials and make some money, to I'm under contract, like with companies, and I'm doing, I was on Knots Landing for 4.5 years, and
yeah, Brian Cunningham, right?
Yeah.
Brian Cunningham.
Yeah, totally.
I do my research.
Nice work.
Nice.
So it just snowballed, and it became a career thing where it was like, what? Music has to take a back seat to this. Like, this is for real. Even though I'm a kid, this is real shit that I'm doing. Like, people are paying me real money to do this. And so it's now a career. Like, I have headshots. I have an agent. I have a manager. I'm going into audition for things. Like, this is a real thing. And so it just kept going, and it got to the point where it was like, man, I guess this is what I do. Like, this is going to pay me way better than playing the drums in some band.
Now, what was like, how were you like managing your money? Like what was your allowance?
My mom was my business manager, and my dad was my manager. And I would get a percentage of checks up to a certain amount. So I would get 5%, but up to like $500 or whatever for a commercial. But it started becoming real money. Like, it was, when I was doing 90210, and I'd say to my dad, I want to buy something. And at that point I had a business manager, like a guy that would oversee my money and give my parents tips of like, oh, you should invest in this, or I would do this. Or so my dad would go to him and go, hey, Brian really wants to buy this. And this guy would go, he's had a really good fucking year. You should live it up a little bit. And it was crazy. Like, I bought my first house when I was 17, but I was only 17 when I signed on to do 90210. So I bought my first house with money that I'd made doing commercials and Knots Landing.
Now, was that the same house that you used to be neighbors of Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, correct?
Yeah, no, that was a house that I had in the Hollywood Hills, and Ben Affleck was renting that house. Fucking awesome.
I bet you they were
so
crazy.
Cool. So cool. So yeah, Ben Affleck was renting the house. It was before he was dating Jennifer Lopez.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he had won the Oscar for
Million Dollar Baby for director?
no,
Oh, no. I mean, Gone Baby Gone.
no, he won the Oscar for what was the one
Oh, Good Will Hunting.
Good Will Hunting. Yeah.
Okay.
So Matt used to come over, and the house was right on the street. It wasn't secure. It wasn't like down a long driveway or anything.
It was right there. I remember we drove by it one time. It's up off of Las La Brea or La
It's
Cienega.
up off of Outpost,
Right, that's
and
where.
La Presa was the street that I was on. And literally, you could like lean out the window of your car and knock on the door. It was right on the street. And there were just like a few steps that led to the street, from the street to the door. And Matt used to go over, and I would see him and he would just be sitting on the fucking steps, like sitting on the stoop, like old school style. It was like, dude, you're an Oscar winner. What do you, hey, good to see you, man. And like Gwyneth Paltrow was dating Ben at one point, or so she would be there. And it was this crazy little, we were kids, man.
Yeah.
We were kids. We were living it up. I moved into that though. My first house was in Burbank. I was 17. I bought a 2-bedroom house in Burbank. Everybody else on 90210, I was the first cast. I was the youngest cast member, and I was the first one to buy a house at 17.
What was
it was
fucking
really
off their
crazy.
money?
It was really crazy. I remember my deal as an actor for 90210 was I was making better money than most of the people there because my quote was higher because I'd been working.
Right.
So it was one of those things where like I was this young dude, but I was making much better money than some of the other people that were like twice my age that should have been making way more money than me.
Yeah. What was your first car? Like, what was it? What'd you buy with?
My first car was a Bronco 2.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I'm sure you bought it brand new.
I did buy it brand new. Yeah. With my dad, I really wanted a Jeep Wrangler. And my dad was like, you're not getting a Jeep Wrangler for your first car. They're top heavy. They're dangerous. And so I had a Bronco 2, which was awesome. I thought it was a stick. And up until that point, I hadn't driven a manual car. And now manual cars don't even exist. Like you
were stalling at Sunset and Fairfax.
Yeah, I had to learn how to drive a stick in North Hollywood where my parents lived. And at 16, I looked like I was like 12. I was like, I was like 5'4". It's like this tiny little dude. I'd get pulled over all the time, because they'd want to see my license because nobody believed I had a license. I drove my car horribly because it was a manual transmission.
Grinding.
Yeah. Well, as you learn how to drive a manual, I remember one of the neighbors, I was like, hey, Chuck, Chuck, check out the way I drive. And then I would stall. You'd sort of jerk into first, and then you'd put it in second, and then you jerk into second. It wasn't until like third or fourth that you really got going and it was smooth. Thank God though. I mean that I ended up racing, and because I could drive a manual transmission car, it really helped in racing cars because they are still manual transmission.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a Bronco 2. I lived in North Hollywood. My parents are still married. They live in the same house I grew up in.
Then or now?
Now. They still live in the same house now that I grew up in. Then. The house was built in like 3 days by the Disney Corporation. It was built for a Disney exec. There are pictures of the house after it was built, and there was nothing around it. Like they live in Valley Village now, and there was literally nothing. They had a well. Like,
oh wow.
Not they themselves. I mean, they weren't there when the house was originally built, obviously.
It was Helen Keller's old house.
Right, yeah. They bought the house in 1972 for $35,000.
Oh my God, it's probably worth like $800 now.
It appraised for 1.2.
All my friends back in Rochester are like, holy shit.
Yeah, $35,000.
Wow.
The price of a Honda.
That's crazy.
You could buy a house back then.
That's crazy.
So yeah, the house is paid off. They were my manager and business manager for most of 90210. So they made a percentage off of that. They did really well. They invested money. It was a family business.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was
When
good.
was how old were you when you first got laid?
High school.
Really? I was
Yeah.
gonna bet 8 years old.
No, high school. High
Wow.
school was my first like sexual, like full on sex thing was high school in
Was
a
it a
closet.
civilian or was it an actress?
A civilian
Nice.
in a closet at a house party.
Nice. Wow. Look
Yeah.
at you.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. I was
Wow.
doing it big.
You
I
know,
was like, hey,
you
this,
know who that's never happened to? This guy.
right.
I was always knocking on the closet door, but no one would open.
I remember I was a virgin forever. And then talking about having sex with this girl at school and then having sex with this girl and afterwards being like, oh my God, I just had sex. Like it's, it was the craziest experience. And then the very next night with a girl I'd known for a long time at a party, having sex with her. I was like, how is this happening right now? Like I literally lost my virginity last night. Like, how
That's
is
fun.
this going down? I felt like such a baller. And I was so little. I looked like 13.
That's great.
But yeah, that was
Now some of the girls that were acting at that time, like who did you have a crush on? Like Justine Bateman or like
Nicole Eggert.
oh gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually met her a few times because I had a mutual friend with her, a guy named Johnny Fratto.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was a good guy. He passed away about 5 years ago. But I went over to his house one time to talk about a project, and
she was there.
And I was just like, "Holy shit!" She still looked pretty good.
She, God, back during that time, Nicole was a big fantasy. Alyssa Milano was a big fantasy.
God, hell yeah! What about Carrie Green? Did you like her?
No, who was that?
Chick? Remember Goonies?
No.
Summer Rental.
No.
John Candy's daughter. She was in
No.
a lot of movies and shit.
I was all TV at that point. Like that was
Punky Brewster.
I was really good friends with Soleil Moonfry. Yeah, who like I was a huge fan at first because there was no bigger star on the planet than her. I mean,
Sure.
there were episodes of her at the White House with Ronald and Nancy Reagan. Like it was a big deal.
That was a monster.
And then I became friends with her. I met her at like some kid party because there were these. I remember the New York Seltzer. Remember those drinks?
Dude, I know the owner of it really well. I'm actually,
do you really?
Yeah, I'm actually supposed to go to the plant in Montebello next week.
Seriously. Does it still exist?
Yeah, he bought it. He bought it like 3 or 4 years ago,
and he's revamped
it. I mean, it's in stores again. I'm gonna send you a case when I get it. I got to send my buddy Ryan Talmo a case too.
Good for him. Yeah.
That's so fun.
There you go.
Go ahead.
See, doing some deals here on this podcast.
Yeah, doing some deals.
So there was this guy named Alfie, and he used to do these. They were called soda pop parties because we were all too young to go into clubs. So he would do these like dance parties that were sponsored by New York Seltzer. And like all the kids would go to these things and dance and party and have fun. Everyone in the business would go to these things because they were the only things you could do. So I met Soleil at one of those and we got along really well. And we ended up becoming like best friends for years. Like she's doing a reboot now of Punky Brewster on NBC Universal. She's on the Universal lot. And she just did a documentary. Her older brother used to shoot all this really cool, like 18 millimeter film and everything. And so I'm in the stuff and, she's in the stuff and we're all kids. And like Mark Wahlberg was a kid and, like House of Pain, like she ended up dating that guy Danny Boy, and so she went on tour with them for a little while, and it's all this crazy footage. But I've known Soleil forever.
What about the chick? Remember the show where the chick was the robot?
Small Wonder.
Small Wonder, yeah.
I was on that.
Were you really?
Yeah.
How did I not know that?
Because I only did one episode. I was a guest star, but that was a big deal. Yeah, I was.
Who was that girl?
I don't remember her name.
Oh, she was so creepy when she'd be like, "I am not computing." Like that.
Vicky. Vicky was the character name.
Yeah. When her eyes would roll back, she'd be like perplexed. She'd be like, yeah, that shit.
Remember how bad the effects were on that? Like, you know, when they would open up the panel on her back and they had like all the LED, like the little flashing lights going.
It was like a light bright.
Right, yeah, totally, yeah.
God damn it, can we get some more pegs here? Oh, that's too funny.
We need more reds.
Yeah, we need more reds. It's got to look like there's a problem.
These whites don't look right.
Oh, that's good.
Bring us more reds. Yeah, so I did an episode of that show. And then, do you remember that show, My Two Dads?
Yes, I do. Yep.
I forget what her name was.
She grew up and she was kind of hot for a bit. I don't know who it is and what she looks like now.
I had a crush on her for a little while too. God, I'm blanking on her name.
Yeah, like the
Stacey Keenan.
Yes.
Whew, digging in the crates for me, man.
Yep.
Digging in the crates.
We're going back.
Yeah, and now at this age, everything is like, you know, it's buffering, but like the brain is, you know, the spinning fucking wheel.
You're like, wait, did that really happen?
Yeah, Stacey Keenan. I was hired to do an episode of My Two Dads, and I sucked on it, and I was fired. That was the only time I've ever been fired.
What did they say to you?
I went to lunch, and they said he doesn't have to come back. And I was like, wait, so what do you mean? I get a long lunch? And they were like, no,
we don't like you.
That means you don't need to go back. They're fucking moving on. They've hired somebody else.
Man. So you just left? Like they didn't?
They probably
escorted you off set.
I rehearsed. I did wardrobe and all that stuff. I did 3 hours of set school. We went on lunch break. And at lunch, they were like, yeah, no, you can go. You're good. Thank you.
Do you know what? Did you deserve to be fired?
Yeah, I sucked. What do you mean?
You were like, guys, can I get a line over here?
The character was, I remember it was like, it was a cool guy. And I was like, man, I can't play a cool guy. Like I'm at that point, I'm like 4'2". Like I'm still 7 years out from puberty. Like I can't play a cool guy. And yeah, that didn't work out.
You were like, hey, can I go on a date with you? Meanwhile, you could walk under a desk.
I remember it was a scene we were both sitting at a table, like talking to each other. It was and like sharing a drink or something. And yeah, that didn't work out so well.
That's funny. Jumping to when we used to go out and kind of hang, you know, we used to, a lot of times we would come to your house on Woodrow Wilson.
Yeah.
Which I love that house. I love the beams and the ceiling and everything.
That was an old, that was like an English Tudor style house.
Yeah. I love
like
the way.
A bunch of little rooms.
Yeah, I love the way the backyard was. That pool was the best, like that lagoon style.
The pool was cool. It was beautiful, but the only problem was it was all the way at the bottom of the stairs. So it ended up being a destination. It was like, bring everything you need for the day.
Yeah.
Drinks and cell phone and all of that, because you're not going back up to the house. It's up too many stairs. Like there's no rushing to go somewhere.
I remember the neighbor, like when you would be down in the pool, your neighbor's house right there had a real cool pool area.
The one below that you could sort of see through the gate?
Yes, like if you were to walk down the steps into your pool and look to your left.
Yeah.
I always remember going, man, that pool is crazy. Like it's
somebody that ended up being a rental house. And I remember one dude that rented it was he he did tattoo, not art, but he developed tattoo ink.
Wow.
Yeah. And so he would have these crazy, like, sort of runway shows down. Like, he would build a stage over the pool and do these like crazy runway shows down there. And then I would, fucking dummy, I would like, the pool, so stupid. The pool would get low on water. So I put a hose to fill up the pool, and then I'd forget about it.
It would
It'd overflow, and then it would stream right down into his yard. And so he would have to call me and be like, hey, dude, you're flooding the backyard. Like, I have, 250 people coming in now, and there's water everywhere. So, oh shit, sorry. I'd go turn off the hose.
I similar thing. I was doing dishes the other day. I left the water on for like 45 minutes. I was like, oh my
Really?
God.
How'd you do that?
I don't know, because I'm dumb. That was smoking.
All right.
I had an excuse.
I was super high.
Yeah, I was high. Yeah. That's funny, though. You're flooding out his yard and shit. It's like, well, I guess I don't have to water my lawn.
So that, and then my neighbors on the other side, I had that jacuzzi, and all the pool equipment was back in the corner. And so when you would run the jacuzzi and there was like a waterfall that went from the jacuzzi down into the pool equipment was really loud. And I would make the mistake of leaving it on overnight, like jets and everything. I'd get out of the jacuzzi and go back in the house, and the house was so far from the jacuzzi, you couldn't hear it. So you'd fall asleep. And the neighbor, I remember this English guy, I had those gates out front, and the neighbor would just be fucking banging on the gate at like 4:30 in the morning, yelling, I couldn't sleep all night because you had the pool equipment on, going all night, and I couldn't. And they built like a wall, and they tried to soundproof and separate and all this like crazy stuff. And I was such a dick. I would just leave that on. I was one of those, I was so inconsiderate to other neighbors. Like, I just didn't have any concept of disturbing neighbors.
You were cool as fuck to me because you let me use your pool even when you were out of town.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
I remember one time I opened up the door and a fucking pig was there. You had bought a pig.
Yeah.
All of a sudden the pig's like, I'm like, oh my God. My reaction, you would have thought it was a hyena. I was like, oh my God, this guy. And then I was just like, I saw this, I go, this guy's got a freaking pig for a pet. I was like, this is some rich people.
This is some rich person stupid shit. This is like when Justin Bieber bought a monkey. Like, this is.
Yeah, which I would. Oh my God, dude! One of my favorite. This is my ADD brain. When you told me the story about fucking Bubbles the chimp, dude.
Which story? When Bubbles went crazy
at the handicap kids, you were. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah. So apparently, I'm not. This is third person. This is not firsthand. It's not factual. But Michael used to do a lot of charity work. He'd go to children's hospitals and stuff like that. And he had Bubbles the chimp, and Bubbles was young, so he used to dress him up in like little overalls and stuff and carry him around, sort of like Emmanuel Lewis. Like, he would, that was his game. That was his thing. So he'd carry the chimp and he'd go to children's hospitals, and, super gracious guy. He'd show up with the chimp, and they'd entertain and do all the stuff, and he'd visit all the kids and whatever. And so I guess as Bubbles got older, he what's a good way of putting it? He had a propensity of he would become really violent about when he was around kids that were handy capable, physically challenged, or in any way at all. And he would do crazy stuff, like he'd poop in his own hand and throw it at kids. So they had to stop taking Bubbles to children's hospitals because of that. Again, not firsthand information. I wasn't there. These are Hollywood legends that have come back around and that I've heard of.
Yeah, Jason
could be
Priestley
true, could not.
Jason Priestley.
Yeah, right. Soleil Moonfry told me that story.
Yeah. One small wonder told me that.
Yeah. Vicky the robot told me that.
Oh my God, that's so funny. It's even funnier.
Do you remember Emmanuel Lewis and Webster
yeah.
and all of that? Yeah.
Yes, I do. I do remember it. It would have been funny if you told me you had beef with him when I asked you. Yeah, you know that little fucker from Webster?
I got in a fist fight with Emmanuel Lewis.
And then you go,
He beat
well,
the
yeah,
shit out of me.
He doesn't like me because I said, hey, Emmanuel, how does it feel to be the last person to know it's raining? He recently wrote a book called.
Why does your mind go there? Is that something you've written that you've performed, or was that just like off the cuff?
Yes, I actually do 2 hours on Emmanuel Lewis. Is that his name? I forgot now.
Yeah, I'm going there though from now on. Let me jot that down.
Oh, that's funny.
Right.
Yeah,
Where am I at? The comedy club this week?
I did read his memoirs. His memoirs were "Help Me, I Can't Reach the Cereal." Ladies and gentlemen, you've tuned into the roast of Webster.
You've tuned into the Emmanuel Lewis roast.
Oh, that's too funny. So, well, dude, we've said it all. Not all of it.
I love you, man. Dude, thank you.
What do you got on the wrist? You wearing my Air King? I need to come get that.
Oh, no. This isn't the Air King. This is just a date just.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, I know.
It's
I'm
just
sorry.
a date just. I love it. You got such classic watches. I'm so glad you never did the whole diamond encrusted band and all that.
Yeah, that's not my MO, man.
I know you're a big shoe guy, or you were.
Yeah, I'm not a big shoe guy now.
Well, you were the first person that showed me Bapes. You were big on Bapes.
Oh, yeah. Wow, I remember Bapes.
I mean, dude, I remember I was like, what the hell are those Air Force Ones with the star like that? You were like,
yeah.
Fucking
wow.
Awesome. Yeah.
My God, you are a time capsule.
Like an elephant, brother.
Right, yeah.
I remember playing
from
Guitar
this time
Hero.
to this time.
Yeah, from this time to this time. But I think I hear the water running in the sink.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
I still have it filling the pool.
Wait. Well, anyways, brother, I love you, man. Thank you so much.
I love you too, man. Good luck with everything. Thank you for having me on this.
And when this is all over, I think we should get an apartment together. What do you think?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Let's just say that we're going to.
Yeah.
That'll be our shtick.
Yeah. We live together. And then we'll look at each other and be like, these bastards believe it. Anyways, all right, brother. I love you, man.
Love you too, brother.
Good one, man. Be safe. Take care of those boys.
You too, man.
And we'll be
Let's get together soon. I want to meet your kids.
Definitely, man.
For sure. Right on, brother.
Buddy. Brian Austin Green, everybody.
Later.
Later, man. Well, that's oh my God, look at my eyes. I look tucked. I look pulled back. I look a little better. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. Stay tuned for more updates and all that good stuff. Thank you and have a good night.